Hi, I'm Peggy Farren, and you're watching the Understand Photography Show, where we talk about travel, nature, and fine art photography. Today we're going to be talking with Randy Traynor about artist-in-residence programs for photographers. The Understand Photography Show is first a podcast, so you can listen to us on iTunes, Stitcher, however you listen to podcasts. If you would give us a review on iTunes, it is so helpful for us. We really appreciate it. We also video it, so we're on YouTube and on Facebook, so you can watch us as well as listen to us if you like. Go to our website. It's called understandphotography.com. Notice I said understandphotography.com. A lot of people will add an ing, and there is no understanding. It's an understand. It's a command. Anyway, be sure to check out our website and sign up for one of the freebies. The first thing you see when you go on our website is going to say sign up for freebies or click here for freebies or something like that. There's a lot of stuff in there, something that might be interesting to you. You know, what kind of camera should I buy is a good one for people just getting started. How to get tack sharp images every time is maybe for somebody a little more advanced, or if you're struggling with that. We have what you need to know. If you are struggling, if you're trying to learn photography, we've got a plan of action for you. I don't know, there's like what kind of gifts for photographers. There's several things in there that you can choose from, or you can get them all if you like. We also have a couple of Facebook groups, and one of them in particular might be of interest to this audience since we're going to be talking about artist-in-residence programs. We have a Facebook group called Selling Your Photography as Art. Now, it is not a place to put your pictures in hopes to sell. It's not like a gallery. It is a business group. So it's like, how did you get into this artist-in-residence program? What should I do? What are my first steps? I'm going to do my first art show. What should I do? Articles, I post articles in there about selling your art. It's all about helping artists, photography artists, sell their art. So it's specific to photographers. And then we have a general group called the Understand Photography Group. So if you just go to facebook.com/understandphotography, you'll see our groups listed and you can click from there. So Randy Traynor is an award-winning nature and landscape photographer. He has completed 2 artist-in-residence programs. So we're going to talk a little bit about Randy and then find out about these artist-in-residence programs. They are such a great opportunity for us as photography artists. Randy's had his images published in magazines, galleries. He's walking the walk and talking the talk. So welcome, Randy.
Good. Nice to be here.
So give us the short version of your photography life story, and I mean short.
Short. Real quick, long story short, early teenager, I started taking pictures and just enjoyed it. And then as we moved on into college, I tried to get into the film industry and learn more techniques about lighting and stuff that way. And then I just, about 10 years ago is when I really became professional, because I actually entered a contest and won it. And I was like, wow, I can make probably money off of this, you know, and started doing it. So then I just started getting more and more contests, and I either place in them or show, and it's just it's been blossoming, like you said. Last 10 years, everything started to just kind of finally come together. After all these years of you know, just taking pictures for fun, now I'm actually doing it for fun and making money off of it.
Are you full-time?
I'm 3/4 time. I'm a jack of all trades, but you know, because I do other things in the communication fields. But it's always nice where I can just, if there's a storm coming, or if there's the fall leaves are in North Carolina, I can just pretty much pack up and go. And that's what's nice about it. In the Instagram, you can find out that it's because it's Instagram, you know, and they're like, oh, that was just taken this past weekend, and where I live in Tallahassee, Florida. It's 6 hours to the mountains, just like it's 6 hours to South Florida if there's something going on in the swamps down here.
Ah.
So I can kind of judge how things are doing with birds, like migrating down here, and if the birds are there, I can come down here and start taking pictures of the birds.
Okay, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And tell the audience about your cool job, the cool part-time job you have.
Well, the cool part-time job is I love giving away millions of dollars. And it is true, because I also work for the Florida Lottery and Powerball. And so some people will see me nationwide, so this goes nationwide. Occasionally I'll fill in for the regular crew that does Powerball, but I'm mainly with the Florida Lottery. And so usually on Thursday or Friday or Saturday nights, you'll see me. We have other people that do the draws as well. But yeah, if you ever want to win millions of dollars, or hopefully I'll pull your ticket numbers. Everybody says, "Why don't you pull your ticket?" But I can't do that. But it is fun just to make another.
So if you're watching the 11 o'clock news.
Yeah, 11 o'clock news. We do the draws about 11:15, so somewhere around that, between 11:15 11:30. They
have a good chance of seeing you if they live in Florida.
Yeah, if they live in Florida, and then occasionally, about every 3 or 4 months, I'll fill in, for the Powerball people, and that's when all my rest of my friends around the country get to see me as well, because it'll be Oregon will call me.
That's what a cool job.
Yeah, it's nice changing, because you change people's lives with it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it could be millions of dollars or just hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's nice to know that what I do can also help. Change someone else's life.
You get paid to do it.
And I get paid to do it.
Which is nice.
Right.
Okay, so tell us, what is an artist in residence program?
Well, artist in residence in general, and you mentioned for photography for this particular segment, but an artist in residence can be from photography to poetry, dance, artists obviously with the painting, writers. So what an artist residency program is, that whether it be a museum or a National Park Service, they invite people to come and just kind of like live in the moment wherever they go, whether it be a museum or like I was at Big Cypress just a few weeks ago. It's almost like a sanctuary. You kind of go and it's supposed to help you kind of make your talent better.
So almost like a retreat.
Kind of, yeah, it's sort of like that. And and what you get to explore that particular area that you're in. So you can be in Rocky Mountains, or you can be in Big Cypress, or and you're there 24 hours a day. Usually they're about 2 or 3 weeks, and some go for a month. And you soak in the whole area, and it's just like a retreat. So okay, what am I going to get out of this so I can improve my, like in my case, photography. Okay. And so it's nice to just get away and and just go, okay, this is what is going to help me.
Just focus on your artwork.
Yeah, just focus. And just focus on the art, that whatever that happens to be. There's writers that come down, so it's they might just clear their mind and start writing something new, or write something about the Big Cypress.
So you said museums sponsor these?
Yeah, there's museums.
And you said you went to Big Cypress, so that's a.
Yeah, that's part of the National Park Service.
Park Service, yeah. Okay.
Like Everglades National Park Service, Everglades and Big Cypress are both national parks. I was in Alaska last summer, which was really cool. And that was with the U.S. Forest Service, so it was still, a national thing. But so with photographers, there's more. You can do things with the Park Service and the National Park in ps.gov on that. They have a section where you can actually, it'll say be an artist in residence, and there's like 100 of them. From Badlands to to Grand Canyon to Everglades, all these parks that you can apply for to see if you get picked, which is really cool, because that's one nice thing, that giving back to to the people of the United States and around the world, because you don't have to be a United States citizen. They've had people that from all around the world that can come, not only to here, but in Alaska. When I applied last year and got it, we were talking about, the lady who was in charge, Barbara, and she goes, yeah, we've had people from Europe come over because they applied and they got picked.
Okay.
So if this is a worldwide podcast, somebody listening in Austria could apply and come to the Everglades National Park if they wanted to, if they got picked.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. I want to go back. I want to go back to how to get in after. Let's still talk about what it is. So let's just take let's take Big Cypress, just because I'm so familiar with Big Cypress, right? So you applied, you got in. Let's go through that at the end of the podcast.
Okay.
What do you do? I mean, so you're chosen.
Right.
Do they say, here are the dates?
Yeah, they usually try to work that out for you. Some of them are specific, like I'm applying for Hawaii volcanoes for next year, and it's saying this is the dates we need you to come.
Okay.
So if you can't do it, then but they work out for me, so I'm trying to apply for it. But most of the time they're flexible. When would you like to come down, and, or come out to wherever where the residence is. But and like I said, it usually is about on average they want it to at least be a good stay, so 3 to 4 weeks on average.
That's what the average
They never really
is.
go more than a month. It's not like a 10-year at a college or something. It's just come on out, enjoy it, and be there. And when you were asking what you do, like over here, there's usually a director. And so Corey was the director for Big Cypress, and they can plan hikes for you. They can plan, to meet other people. And of course they give you free time to do what you need to do as well. But it's nice, like here, if someone has never been to Big Cypress that's watching this and wanted to apply, Joey would plan some hikes where you would go deeper into what you would just normally see with your car, and you might go on an airboat ride or a swamp walk hike, which is real big down here. And most people don't think most people don't think about doing that because they usually just get in the car and they drive through, or even in Everglades. And I don't want to get out of the car. Well, no, we're walking waist high in swamp water, and for me, was able to take pictures. Someone else might take, want to do a painting, so they may look at some scenery that they would not normally see from the road. So it's a neat thing.
So in this case anyway, they had some structured things for you,
Right.
and then you had also free time.
Yeah.
Where did you stay?
They have 2 areas in Big Cypress, and they have the Oasis Visitor Centers on the east side of the park, and then they have the Welcome Center on the west side, just about 15-20 minutes outside of Naples. In this particular case, there was no room at the inn on the western side over here, so they put me behind the Oasis Center. There's an actual house with a kitchen, and there's some of the Rangers also live in that area. Sometimes I've applied for some where you're out in the middle of just nowhere. You still have a house or something, like a place that you can artist or whatever could have their easels and paint, or me at nighttime to sleep, if you want to do that. But this particular one at Big Cypress, they had Rangers with us in that was area, so it was never totally alone.
So in that house, you stayed in one bedroom, and there were other people in the other bedrooms?
Yeah, it's like a dormitory style at that point. Yeah. So
dormitory where you sleep in the same room as other people?
Well, not in the same room, but it's
you have your own room.
You had your own. You
have all of them been? How many have you done?
I've done 2, and both of them had the same thing. You
had your own room.
You own your own room, which is
because I wouldn't want to.
It's weird. Yeah.
I don't want to sleep in a. When you said dormitory, that makes me think of like bunk beds and
mainly it's a general kitchen area, living room area where everybody can get.
That I like. Yeah. I mean, I'm an Airbnb host. I love that. But I want my own room.
The funny thing is, when you go to these places, the Rangers are doing their things. They're exhausted, so you saw some of the roommates, for a brief, hey, how you doing? How was your day? And then they would they go and get their dinner and they go eat in the room because they've been up, fighting fires or hiking themselves and looking for, in this situation.
They work hard.
They work, yeah, and all of them. Even when I was in Alaska, the same thing. They're clearing brush and the same here. They're clearing the trails.
You're out there with machetes in that heat with those bugs and.
People don't. When people, that's one thing that I got out of my artist in residence, because that's another thing you're supposed to kind of get something out of it, and it gave me new respect for Rangers, because
whether
it be in Alaska or here, the only 2 that I've done, but I'm like going, you were out there clearing trails. It's like in Alaska, they're having to make sure because you've had all that snow. Sometimes trees fall. They have shelters for people if they ever get stuck, because weather can change in a minute in Alaska, obviously. And so they have these cabins along the way, and they actually have to go and repair them because they've been to, the snow, or a bear might have gotten, over the wintertime. And so they're rebuilding all this stuff. And we just show up and we go hiking.
I know. I know. We just there's a trail. How do you think that trail is there?
And putting rocks in, or like when you do sometimes you'll do the steps. If you're in the mountains or whatever, like Rocky Mountain National Park, and you can do the stuff. Those just didn't appear there magically.
Yeah.
The Rangers were taking.
They work hard.
And I asked people even in Alaska. I said, how do you get the stuff out there? They said sometimes we carry them in. So they carry some of these logs and bags of rocks with them, and then they say if it's in a really remote area, they have a helicopter that will drop it, but they still have to work their way, from where the clearing area is. So I found a whole new respect for, if there was one thing I got out of both the artists in residence that I've been in, is I respect these rangers and the National Park Services and things, because they do a lot for all of us to enjoy the parks.
They sure do.
Yeah.
All right, so Now, I know I did talk to one other, I don't know if I interviewed her for the show. I can't remember. Gosh, I've done so many shows now. Sometimes I forget if I just was talking to someone or if they were on the show.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I was one of the speakers last year at New England Camera Club Conference, which is a very large camera club conference. And her name is Colleen Sperry, and she wrote a book, or a guidebook on Acadia National Park, which I bought because we went there. Right. And I can't remember. Now I can't remember if she was on the show or if I was just... Well, she's done it several times. Right. She did it 3 or 4 times at Acadia, different times a year and all that kind of stuff. But was it there or was it in Michigan? They had an artist in residency. They have a specific time frame, and they bring in one writer, one painter, one poet, one photographer, and you all stay together.
Yeah, see, no.
You've never done that?
Never done one of those.
That to me sounds really fascinating.
So a lot of times they've had they'll overlap. Like, you know, as soon as I leave, it's almost like check out a hotel. They get everything situated for the next 3 or 4 weeks, and that happened with Alaska, and the same thing here in Big Cypress. But I have heard of those where there's a combination.
That sounds really fun to me.
Yeah, because especially if you're bringing in all the different mediums, because that would be neat to talk to somebody. Because, like I said, a photographer and a painter might do the same thing, but they see it different ways.
Yeah.
And that would be neat to collaborate, you know, or at least talk about what did you see today, or, you know, or hey, you might want to go paint this. I was out hiking, I took a picture of this, and then you can see it. So that would be kind of neat to do it.
Yeah, I thought it sounded neat.
But all the ones I've done were, you know, were just me single, where they had picked like 7 or 8 people, like you said, to come in over the next 6 or 7 months, and so they were like, okay, this is your month, and that's your month.
So how many, like, do you know, like, how many does Big Cypress choose in a year?
Yeah, they chose, I think 5, because they
5 in a whole year.
Yeah, the whole year.
Because, and how long are they at Big Cypress?
Usually 3 to 4 weeks at Big Cypress.
You choose if it's 3 or 4?
Because they're flexible. They don't, you know, you don't necessarily have to. There are some places like, we want you here for a month. You know, and you know, that's a lot of time, and a lot of time away from the family as well. And so, you know, I'm not going to do that one. But if it's a 2 or 3 week one, it's you know, it's not a vacation by far, but it's enough to where you can go, come back, and you're not going to be, you know, missing a whole month of your life and your family's life. So they do them at different stages. Some are smaller than that. Just, you know, you can do a few weeks, just a couple of days to a few weeks, because it just all depends on how much funding it is. Because
they don't pay you.
They don't pay. Yeah, it's all volunteer. You get obviously you're getting free room and board. You know, at that point. So even down here, I was here for over 3 weeks. So had I done an Airbnb, it would have probably been $6,000-$7,000 probably.
Yeah.
You know, and so
depending on the time of year. If you came in February, man.
February,
it was February?
Yeah, it was February into March. So I went into.
Well, that's good advice for anybody who wants to come to our area in February, because it is really expensive here. February is our February and March peak.
And that's one reason, of course, I'm, you know, up in Tallahassee, but I also knew that this would be perfect because low humidity, no bugs. It was a lot clearer days. We don't have as much rain, and that's also why Big Cypress only does it at certain times of the year. They don't have it over the summertime because they're smart.
I don't know. That's the best time, in my opinion, to be out there for pictures. Okay, so one time we were out hiking in Big Cypress. So these people, they need to know that they need to get out of the swamp if there's even the hint of lightning, because you could die.
Right. Yeah, you're in water.
Yeah, you're in water, which is a conductor of electricity, if you didn't learn that in grade school. Yeah. And if you look around at fallen trees out there, those are usually lightning strikes. So we heard.
It's a great place, though.
Oh yeah, we heard that thunder, and we because you know you got to put your cameras back in your dry bags, because something about hiking in the swamp, there's a lot of holes, so you fall into holes, so your camera equipment is gonna get wet. So we have to have it in dry bags. We put our camera equipment, and we were just, and then of course you can't go very fast because of all the holes and the cypress knees and the limestone. You could twist your ankle.
Yep. And you're carrying 30 pounds of camera equipment. So
and we were scared, man. There was lightning by the time we got back to the truck. And
that may be one reason why they don't do it in the summertime here as well. Not only for the heat and the bugs, for you know, out of staters, I should say, but you know, because a lot of people don't know that.
For safety, yeah. I mean, that would that would be the only reason I would think of.
I don't think someone from Michigan would understand how bad the storms can be down here.
Yeah, we have lightning storms. It was lightning capital of the world, so there's scary. A lot of lightning.
It can be scary.
But we're not in February.
No. February, January, February, March are usually when I try to come down anyway for this area, and that's why.
Because it's cold in Tallahassee.
Yeah, it gets cold in Tallahassee.
You guys had snow a couple years ago.
So it's about every 8 to 10 years we have the phenomenon of snow, but it does get chilly, 30s and 20s, and of course a lot like what I tend to do between nature and bird photography. The birds have migrated down here. So, there's hundreds of thousands of them all around here.
That's part of the reason it's the photographer's paradise down here.
And so I come down.
That's why I started the show, by the way.
Oh, okay.
What happened was I realized that every famous photographer in the world comes to Florida, to the Everglades.
Well, it's such a beautiful place.
Everybody does. Yeah. Every single, I mean, even if they're not even, if they're just some kind of fine art photography that's not really into nature, they still come here because it's so beautiful here. At that time of year.
That time of year, and the sunsets and sunrises, and
the sunsets and sunrises are way better. Sunsets in the summer.
Yeah.
That's the time to come for sunsets because we got all those clouds. Yeah. It's amazing.
But it's neat down here, and that's why I kind of when I applied, I was like, I'm always down here. And I'm usually having to, because my kids live in Fort Lauderdale and Boca area, so I would, crash at their place, but I have to drive an hour, sometimes 2 hours to get into, this side of Big Cypress, of course. And so when I saw it, I said, I'm going to apply just to see if they'll, and so I sent actually a lot of pictures of Big Cypress for my application.
For your application. Oh,
and
okay. I'm not up to that yet. Because I still have more questions about while you're there. Now, when I talked to Colleen, she said they had specific things that she had to give back to them.
Right.
So give us some examples of that. What are the requirements? And how were they different between this one and the one in Alaska?
Right. Well, photography in general, both were kind of the same. They want you to donate a couple pieces of the area that you were in, so they can hang. Like I have stuff hanging in the visitor center now, and the Welcome Center, in off 41. Alaska, there's things hanging in those welcome and visitor centers up in Prince William Sound.
Now,
area.
do they pay for the printing, or do you?
That's all.
So you have to. Yeah. You do have to pay. So there is a cost to this.
There's a cost involved in it, and it's one of those things where, just like with the Alaska, some of the stuff that I did, and as we talked about down here, you can't put a price tag on some of the things because a lot of things that at least I did in Alaska, tourists don't do. You either have to be a ranger or be with a ranger, and that's what I was. So that's why I was able to go deep into areas that if you went to Alaska, you might see something. But we were way, way back in the woods, And the same thing here. Most tourists don't usually get to go on a swamp walk.
I'll tell you, this guy, his name is Chris Hopkins. He changed my life because he's taken me out there so many times, and I just love it.
Yeah.
But that's actually how I met Joey, through him. Yeah. But he's taught me a lot. I would never have gone. I lived here for 25 years or something before I ever went that deep into the swamp.
They're like, you're only 20 minutes outside of Naples. There's a big, nice, beautiful swamp, and there's swamps because you got Focatahatchee and all these other ones around. And I'm like, huh? You never been there? You live here. It's like I drive 6-7 hours to come down to it.
I know.
And so you take it for granted sometimes, but. With the, once you're done, they usually give you about 6 months to, like especially with an artist, they have to do the painting and all that. It's a little bit easier on photography, but you have to give back to them so they have their rotating collection, and because of past artists, they'll move that collection somewhere else and put mine in my own.
But you've given it to them; they own it now.
Yeah, and they own at that point. They own the rights, and also.
So they're not rotating it, and giving it back to you. They're rotating it, putting it in a different visitor center. Or?
And you don't have. I tend to print really big, so it costs me a lot more money. Well, the things I gave them were 60 by 40 prints.
Okay.
And they're also framed, so it was a nice little gift but they gave me a nice gift themselves to let me come down and be a part of some of the activities they had planned for me. Some of the things that and not only, like I said, the housing, but some of the things that we were able to do middle of the night to go take some star photography.
Nice.
I've been out there before with friends like Joey and stuff, but to be back with a ranger in the middle of the swamps taking a Milky Way shot. No, I don't think I would have done that on my own, because they know and they know where to go and what to look out for. Well,
you shouldn't be out there on your own.
But you do, and also a lot of artists and residents. Once you're there, they make you, while you're there, I should say, give back, like do a special class or presentation. So in this situation with back in March, they had the first Saturday of March was the Dark Sky event. And they do that a couple of times because Brick Cypress is one of the 10 locations in the United States that are dark sky. So they had their speakers talk about the telescopes and stuff, and then they had me talk about night photography. And it was kind of neat because we had a little table set up, and I said, "Come see me," afterwards. After everybody was wandering around like a little.
So a little public speaking.
Yeah.
So somebody who's terrified of public speaking has to keep that in mind. Because Colleen said the same thing.
If you're a dancer or a violinist or whatever, you have to put on a little show your talent to the people. It's kind of hard sometimes with photography, but what we'll do is sort of like we're doing with a show. I went in and had an astrophotography class basically, and said, "Here's what you need to do for your settings, and here's what," and I had everything pre-written on a paper, so we were handing it out, and it was really wonderful for me because on the way out, as everybody was coming, they were like, "Oh my goodness, I've never been able to capture the Milky Way because until your settings." And I said, "Those aren't written in stone. You can go higher, you can go lower, but this is just your average setting." And they were so excited. And it made, I was telling Corey, I was like, that's what makes me feel good. That I changed someone's lives, that now they may be coming back to the swamp to take Milky Way shots and know what they're doing now.
Well, I'll tell you what, as a very slow learner myself, I took years and years, and I continue to take photography classes, and this is going to sound really mean, but there are a lot of bad photography teachers out there. And you're wondering why are people asking for settings all the time? Because they never even had a basic class. They had taken 25 classes and no one taught them how to shoot in the manual mode.
Yeah, and that's your best friend. People are scared of manual.
Because nobody's teaching it. They're all teaching aperture priority.
Well, yeah.
Why? I don't understand that.
It's automatic. Everybody just wants, let me point and shoot. And I tell people, even on your cell phone, you do know there's a pro setting that you can get out of the automatic and go in and adjust it. And I've told people, even at sunsets here on the beautiful Naples Beach, find a rock or something, and if you don't, because you're not going to usually have a tripod for a camera, but I said find a rock or a shoe or a purse or whatever, and if you lean your camera against it, and you put your timer on your phone, and you can go and get your shot set up, hit the thing button, the camera, it'll count down 10, 9, 8, 7. We'll walk away, let it take the picture, and then you have a beautiful shot, because you set the settings correctly on your phone. Because you can go into that professional mode and say, I want this aperture, I want this speed. And it's not going to be as good as a $5,000 camera, but if you're trying to get, oh, what a beautiful sunset, and all you have is your cell phone, you're trying to just take a picture of it, it's not going to do it. So I tell people all the time, just find something. Naples, you have all the pilings, around here, so just lean on a piling and step back and put the timer on, and then you can even get a selfie if you want to.
Yeah.
So people don't know about manual. And they're scared of it. And I'm like, there's nothing to be scared of. It's your friend.
Well, that's the first class we teach, and there are only 3 parts to getting it, and 4 things you have to learn. You have to learn how to read your meter, which is pretty doggone easy. There's a 0 there. That's all you have to know, really.
Right.
And then aperture, shutter speed, ISO. That's all you have to learn.
Yeah, and I was out last night.
It's not that hard. And it took me 3 years to learn that. 3 years, because I took class after class after class, and I didn't even know I was I didn't know that that's what I needed to learn, because they never taught me that in any of the classes for 3 years. And I'm talking $7,000 a year is how much I spent on average on classes. Now, they were more expensive then than they are now, because now, it's a lot more out there. But isn't that crazy?
It is. And
I don't think it's even though there's a lot more out there, I don't think it's that different. Most people are teaching to shoot in aperture priority rather than actually teaching photography. And I don't get that. I don't get it at all.
We were out last night with some friends, and one of the girls that was with us, I've got to know her, and she just wants to soak up that knowledge. And so last night, I was even showing her more manual stuff, because last time I was down there, we all got together. So we were on the beach, and it was a horrible sunset because rain was last night, but
usually it's the opposite.
It's just the opposite. But last night was bad because we thought it was going to be good, but it was had a late afternoon storm. But once the clouds had cleared and it was the sun had actually set, I said, let's get some after shots where it was still low. And she'd never done it before. This is where manual comes in, and this is where you can adjust and tell the camera what to do instead of the camera telling you what it wants to do.
Yeah.
And she was amazed
Yeah.
And so she had her tripod, and we set it up, and I, walked her through the steps. And she was, oh my goodness, look at the contrast in these clouds, because I said, that's because you made it do that.
Yeah.
The camera didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
But it was a manual, so you were able to tell the camera.
You're smarter than the camera.
Right.
I know. Sorry, I went off on a tangent. That's my big. That's my thing.
Yeah.
Oh. Anyway, okay. So what? Okay, so they're going to expect you, both Alaska and
and
Florida. They both
98%.
asked you for a nice print.
Right. It's usually in the when you apply online, it'll say what they expect from you.
Okay.
This is what we expect you to do while you're here. This is what we expect you to do 6 months to a year after for donating your work. Some just have one piece, some have two pieces. It just all depends. Because I applied for quite a few of them, and sometimes you get in the top 5 and you don't get picked. But hey, that's the break. You can't win everything. But it's nice to know ahead of time, what are you expecting out of me? Like I said, whether I'm a poet or a photographer, I got to give something back, and what do you expect from me? So they lay that out up front.
Okay, and so mostly you've seen a little bit of teaching and a donation of your print.
And on my side, both sides, we had to promote, Big Cypress and the Prince William Sound while we were there. You have to give talks, and you have to
more than one talk.
Well, some do have more than one
I
talk.
see.
These both had just one talk, but some will say, you're required to do 2, because it's 3 or 4 weeks, it's a month, so they won't expect you to do two classes. But yeah, that's what you're doing already. So whether if you're a dancer, all you have to do is put on a little dance recital, or show people how to dance, like we were just talking about manual. Come on in, we'll have a class. Who wants to learn about their camera? That, it's not that you have to go into a college degree course. It's just, this is me. I'm the artist in residence, and what can I do to help you? That I'm out here taking photography.
Okay.
And that's like we did here. I'm like, what can I help you? Let's help you take better pictures at night.
All right. So, are there any other costs involved? Well, you have to take time off of work.
Yeah, unless you're an artist, you don't have to work. But you take off time at work, and most of the time, the artist has to get to and from where their location is.
So if it's in Alaska, you have to get to Alaska.
Yeah, and that was a nice 10, 12-hour flight from Atlanta.
Ooh.
But that was one of the things. In my case, I traveled so much, I had air miles, so I just went through Delta, and so that was great because I was able to just use my air miles up. But that's the trade-off. Are you're using, you got their resources. Because like in Alaska, we went kayaking and we went camping.
And you didn't have to pay for any of that.
I didn't have to pay for any of that. And I was shuffled around on skiffs to these remote islands in Prince William Sound, and then we would kayak. It was muskrat, otters, and porpoises, not the kind of we have here. They're dolly porpoises, I think is what they were, and all the whales and bears and moose. I mean, this is stuff that you don't usually see, and we're just kayaking or sea kayaking around, but. And the same thing really here in Big Cypress is the same way. They're giving you the opportunity to live here on park grounds, and like
and what an experience!
Yeah, what an
experience all this different.
Yeah, and some places I look in will have stipends. They'll have we'll give you $1,000 stipend, which is great because like I said, it could help with travel. Hawaii has $2,000 stipend, so it's like, okay, well if I do one day win that, I'm sure it'll probably be put toward either a rental car. Or because you're going to have to drive around the island.
Oh.
So when you think about if it's anywhere in the United States you can drive, you assume. But that's the other thing too. If I'm going to do something in Washington, I probably won't drive across the country. I'll probably fly and have to rent a car. And but if it's some location where I'm going to stay in that area and I will be able to just hike or that would be the difference. But yeah, you do have to.
Okay,
pay.
so you just made me think of something though, because I'm sitting here thinking, well, you're in Big Cypress in this one house,
right.
But if you're in a more urban area, you are going to have to be going. Okay, I'm going to go see this thing and then go see that thing. You're not going to.
And getting food. There's some places that will give you a per diem allowance, per day, $10 or $15. So you can it helps you with that.
Did they give you any food?
Yeah. The Alaska did. Big Cypress did not, but it was 20 minutes into Naples and 45 minutes into eastern Miami, and so sometimes we go to.
So you just go grocery shopping
go
and
grocery
you
shopping
cook while you're there and make your own.
And we just that's what you kind of plan. It's almost like camping. Okay, what are we gonna do? So let's see. I need enough food for 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay.
And Big Cypress, of course, you are still in civilization basically. You have 41, but you know, but there's nothing out there in Big Cypress, so you have to come into Naples or you have to go to Miami to get anything, you know, even gas, you know, obviously they have that one.
How long ago did you do that?
The Big Cypress?
Yeah.
That was, like I said, this past February and March.
Okay.
That's the one I just come in off of. And last.
Because the closest convenience store gas station got ruined by Hurricane Irma,
Yes.
so it's already closed down, but I have their sign. I'm going to do something with it. I don't know what. I saw it and I had to garbage pick it. I'm like, it's cool. I'm going to cut the letters out or something.
Oh, neat.
I don't know yet.
But that's one of those things where it's the trade-off is you're at that point being publicized around the world on national parks services.
Yeah.
And like, you know, on my website you can see all the analytics and people who come and visit, and of course now I have my artwork hanging up, you know, in the visitor center, and you start seeing, you know, now Japan, or now Austria, and there's England, and there's, and so all these tourists that came, you know, in the wintertime to come to Florida are probably going back home and seeing the website. And then they, of course, do social media. Hey, Randy Traynor was our artist in residence, and so now you're on their Big Cypress, then the National Park Service or U.S. Forest Service Twitter account. You know, all these things that, you know, hundreds of thousands of people follow.
Wow, that's awesome.
You can't. It's free publicity, so that's great, and it's also going to hopefully help your career. But you also have to remember that of what's going on and what they're doing for you. That's when you want to give back. And that's what was nice about the, it was a stewardship project up in Alaska, because they wanted us to really give back, you know, and we help pull weeds, we help, you know, invasive weeds. We helped do things while the rangers were doing it, and then she was like, go on, take your pictures, and you have your free time. But it was almost like a field trip, you know, at that point. You're here to learn, but also play. So what you learn, hopefully you can create, you know, in your pictures. And so Alaska was, they were totally two different kind of artists in residence.
Oh, okay.
So, and then, you know, you could be in Joshua Tree National Park and be a totally different experience than both of those, because, you know, you could be out there doing something that what they require you to do. So my recommendation is, if anybody out there wants to be an artist in residence, to just really research and say, how am I going to get there? What am I going to do once I'm there? Is it going to be easy to get, you know, food, gas, you know, things like that? Communication, some places, I was in Alaska for 3 weeks with no phone, cell phone.
Oh my goodness. Well, that was one of my questions, because, you know, I'm a business owner.
Right.
And I don't get days off.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get days off, like not even a day.
Oh,
you know, I mean, I have to answer my emails, and, you know, I might not answer my phones on Sunday, but I have to answer the emails.
Oh yeah, and, you know, there's parts of Big Cypress that don't have signal.
But where you stayed, you had internet?
Signal.
I mean, could you take the time to work for an hour a day?
Oh yeah, there was times where I would send stuff. In fact, there was emails where
because it's so appealing to me to do something like that. But then I start thinking about that much time away from the business, and I start having anxiety attacks.
Yeah. I was doing the same thing. I thought, okay, well, before I went to Alaska, I was like, I went ahead and prepaid all my bills, and then had my wife just mail them off, you know, because it was in the middle of my time, so I couldn't mail, you know, I wasn't gonna bring a checkbook to Alaska, so I just went and did all that. But there was occasionally, you know, bling, your phone would, oh, we're somewhere, you know, we had a signal, so you stop, you know, and we would answer our emails at that point, you know, or even a text message that come through 2 days earlier, you know, and it finally pinged onto your phone because it had been sitting there in limbo waiting for you to get the signal on your phone.
Wow.
But that's also what's, you know, there's artists in residence, like I said, it could be in a museum in New York City or something, so that you're not always out in the boonies. But majority of the whole point of these national park ones, especially, is they're national parks, and they want
you to be in the
your
park.
serenity, and you know, you're out.
That's what appeals to me. I mean, New York City, I've never been to New York City. It's on my bucket list. Can you believe I could be this age and never have been to New York City?
Wow.
But if I were going to do something like this, to me, it sounds like
that'd be kind of neat, you know, if New York, you would just, as a photographer, like I said, to walk the streets and just be there. And of course, staying in New York City ain't cheap either. So, you know, if you're staying in some place where they're providing the home for you.
I never thought about that.
That's
maybe that'll be something I look
But they have
into for next summer.
so many different programs. But the ones that I've always applied for were Park Service, Forest Service, things, because I'm, you know, not only do I do birds, but I love landscapes. And so I was like, okay, well, New York City is a great place to take pictures, but I love being in nature. So those I don't apply for. Applied for the Arcadia National Park as well. We went there, and I said, I'd love to come back and have more time. And
Place
that's
is
exactly,
amazing.
It's a beautiful
I hope
park.
you get that one.
Well, it'd be nice, yeah. And again, it's a beautiful place. We went there in the fall, but you only had a couple of days on your trip. And that's what's kind of nice. Just like yesterday, if someone was here and it was a bad sunset because of the rain, well, people who live here, if you're an artist in residence, I got 3 more weeks to take a good sunset, picture or whatever. So when you're on vacation, you don't get that same experience of, okay, well, now I'm living here for 3 weeks. I have 3 extra days, 3 weeks to play with.
All right, so let's talk about how to find these artists in residence. I'm going back to the beginning now. Now that we have a good feeling for what it is, how do I get it? Okay, so you said nationalparknps.gov.
Yeah, you can do that. Really, quite
Also,
honestly, type in just Google search on artists in residence, and you're going to have a million of them come up. But they'll have like the parks, the Forest Service will have some stuff. But there's different, little small ones to big ones. And so there's I cannot remember the website that was a long time ago that I used to work on, but I found it on Google. And that's where I started looking at some of these, and then I realized that they were also telling that, hey, the parks have them as well. So that's when I moved off that one, and I said, oh, let me start doing just the big ones, But there's small ones out there, and nothing against the small one or the big ones. It was just one of those things where, the bigger ones like the Park Service and all that are, you're usually in a major Grand Canyon or Big Cypress or Zion National Park, things like that. And those are the places that we all love as tourists, and I've been to, and it'd be nice to come back to. Sometimes you want to go somewhere you haven't been either. But it's
the one that I saw, I spoke also at the Michigan conference last year, and I stayed a couple of days in Western Michigan. And I'm from Michigan, but I'm from Detroit, so I've spent a little time in Western Michigan. But I moved to Florida a long time ago. Most of my life I've been in Florida, even though I was raised in Michigan. But anyway, I stayed in Holland, Michigan. I stayed a few extra days, and Saugatuck is right next to Holland, and Saugatuck is like an artist community. It's just a really cool place. But it's also close to Chicago, so I think it was the Chicago Institute of Arts had an artist in residency program there in Saugatuck, Michigan, and that was the one that had the poet, and I think I just read about it in one of the Co-op Art Galleries, which that is a good topic for a show. Co-op Art Galleries, remember that, Heather? Anyway, they had a brochure or something about artists in residency program, and I thought, well, that's another cool idea. Anyway, okay, so we found some. And then we read through because we want to make sure that we're willing to do what it takes.
Yeah, the fine print.
Because if it's a specific date, you need to make sure you're available. If it's a little flexible, you need to make sure you're available. And that you can take that much time off of work.
Correct.
Or away from your family.
Cost you as well.
Because I didn't even, as a single person, I didn't think about being away from the family.
Right.
That's a big thing if you have children or even a husband or a wife or something like that.
Yeah,
they might not want you to go away for 3 weeks.
The National Park Service has one in the Dry Tortugas on the island, not the island with the fort on it, but there's the island with the lighthouse. And I looked at that one, and that one's a month. But they said you must bring everything you need because you go out on the ferry. And there's no, they said they recommended a satellite phone as well because there's no way to get in touch with anybody. And it was a month long, and I was like, yeah, that would be really cool. I've been to Dry Tortugas a couple of times, and it's an awesome place, but I don't know if I could be there for a month in total isolation by myself. And, and like I said, if something happened or whatever, only way to contact somebody would be on the phone. And so that was one I passed on because it was just not for me. Right. And so that goes back to someone else. Maybe this is perfect, and some of them do couples where, like either two friends or a husband and wife, whatever, can, they're both artists, they can go together. So that works out good. But you got to make sure.
It's a good fit.
Yeah, it's a good fit for you, and it's going to be something that you're going to get something out of. That's the whole point of an artist in residence, as we talked about earlier, is what is it going to do for me in my career to further enrich my soul of artistic, and that's really what it is.
But it also helps your career, as you said.
It does help your career.
So that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are some of the qualifications to get accepted? How do you apply and how do you get accepted? What made you get accepted? What made you get turned down on the ones that you didn't?
$1,000,000 question. If I had that answered, I'd be doing my own show and saying how to get it. But I've applied probably about 15 of them.
Okay.
And some big and some small, because I was thinking the same thing. Well, build up your resume, and maybe you aren't ready for the big ones, but you can get 3 or 4 small ones. This is like you don't become vice president of the company if you just joined up as a stock boy. You kind of work your way up the ladder. But I looked at all the ones that I did, and all of them are pretty much about the same as far as even for an artist. Like I said, we're using photography in this case, so. But they wanted samples of my work. And then you're filling out all your application basically. It's almost like going to college or whatever. And what would you do? One of the questions is they want an essay from you on how is it going? How are you going to benefit? And what are you going? How is this particular artist in residence going to benefit you? So
not how that's going to benefit them.
Right. Okay. What are you going to get out of it?
See, I think like a salesperson.
Yeah.
The benefit for you is.
So,
but no, they want to know what
right.
you want to get, what you want to get out of it.
Yeah, but basically, because in the early stages, I think that's where I was getting denied, because that's pretty much, I knew I had good work, and I'd been selling it for a while, so I knew it was good. It wasn't like not being patting myself on the back, but it was, these are good shots. So that part, okay, but now you got to convince that somebody pick me. Someone's like a college, like a thesis, getting into master's school or doctorate school, you got to say, well, why do we want this guy to come to our college? You have to write that, that paper. So I had to fine tune it. Like any, when you get rejected on anything, you got to go back and look at what you wrote and, ooh, why did I do that? And then you left that out the next time. And slowly I started, getting higher and higher.
So give us an example of what you've said that have got you in that you think anyway. I know you obviously don't know exactly.
You don't know the full thing, but it was like down here for Big Cypress. I was like, in so many nutshell, my essay was that, I want to come down to learn more about, how the Big Cypress and the water flow in this past fall with all the red tide. It really made a good tie-in because I was like, what is Big Cypress and how does it affect this area of the country? So let me come down. That's basically what I was saying. Let me come down so I can document it, but also learn about the area so I can go on a TV show or talk to somebody, in Tallahassee, or I could be out west. Hey, have you ever been to Big Cypress? That's the Everglades, that river grass, and yeah, this is why it's called the river grass. So that's the whole point. Same thing with Prince William Sound. There was so much still going on. There's actually still oil. We came across rocks from Exxon Valdez where the rangers were saying, move a couple of the rocks away.
And when was that, do you remember?
That was like 30 years ago.
30, because I was going to say the young people won't even know about that.
Which is actually, back in the day, the tanker ran aground, and it killed off a lot of stuff in Prince William Sound.
And they still have oil.
The oil, well, when it washed up on the beach, up there, their beaches aren't real pretty white beaches like we have here in Naples. You're talking about boulders or rocks and stuff. Well, they said move a few of them over, and you went down 6 or 7 inches, and there was tar.
Wow.
So that is, they can come in with their cleaners on any kind of oil spill, and they clean that top layer almost, but the rest of it was because that water seeps in through all this high and low tide, and there's still some there after 30 years. So it was one of those things where I was like, wow, that would hit me. I was like, this is a fun trip to be on, but now I'm actually learning that this is what's going on, and because I said the one thing I haven't noticed in Prince William was I don't see many whales, killer whales. I was hoping to get some orcas, and they don't come in here now. They said they stay out on the outskirts of Prince William Sound. They used to have resident pods. They said ever since the oil spill, they don't know if it killed off their food source or they know just maybe the smell from or taste of the water, but they have not been back at all. And so,
in 30 years?
Yeah, in 30 years.
Wow.
They said if you want to go out there, you got to take a boat now to go see them. They used to be just swimming right around like you see in all the pictures. They're not in there.
So in the application process, in this essay, you said what you want to get out, you want to learn more about, but you also gave them a benefit.
Yeah.
So you said, so I can talk about it and share what I learned.
I
that's
honestly
smart.
I think that's what they want, because I early on, I would, once it goes back to the publicity, I'll be on Big Cypress website for here until ever they change it. All of the past residents. Same thing with the Alaska website for the Voices of the Wilderness is what they call their thing. And then, for 2018 residences, they had 10 of us. In that situation, there was 10 different locations around Alaska. So we weren't all together, but they picked 10 people. And they did different times of the year. But anyway, all 10 of us are on that website. So what I did when I was even applying for that one, a couple years ago, because it was 4 or 5 times before I got it, I actually went back to some of the earlier artists and residents and said, what did you do? What was how did you get the art? Same questions you're asking me today. And I took that knowledge, which is what I'm trying to express here as well, and it's been passed on. So maybe someone else who hears this or sees
So
this.
what you want to get out of it is basically you want to know more about the area, but the more you know about the area and put into your essay.
Right. You can advocate for that area more.
Become an advocate for that
Yes.
area.
And
Oh,
that's
that was good.
Yeah, and that's what I think in the long run, there's no really specific right answer for what you're asking me, but an artist in residence, whether it be New York City or Big Cypress or Alaska, what are you going to do after you leave here? How are you going to enrich your career path by coming here? Is what the whole point of being an artist in residence.
But also enrich their promotion.
Okay. Yeah, and of course then they have that, and and it's one of those things where it's a win-win for everybody once you get it. But don't be discouraged, because like I said, it took 7 times for me to get the Alaska one, and it just finally.
Now, when you put your work in, they say please submit samples of your work. So let's say you put 5 pictures in there. You also put your website in there.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't just judge you.
They're changing things now. The last couple of years now, they used to have send it on a disc or upload it. Because the internet's changing. But and that's just in the last 10 years. But the last few times they have. Give us your social media site or give us your website, so you don't even have to upload it. They can see hundreds of pictures now instead of 5. Because I might have. There's people that may only have 5 great pictures, but they're not the greatest photographer in the world, but they send their best. Oh, this guy is great, and then they get sorry. You don't know.
I know.
So now I think they've changed it, which is so much easier for us when we apply, because there's different. Cafe Management is one of the sites that I use a lot, because now I just remembered it. It's CAFE Management. And I know that's an acronym for something, but I don't know what it stands for. Probably artists in residence of some kind. But they have lists that you can go in, and this is what's on this month, or the deadlines on this day. But they have a portfolio, and a lot of the bigger places are using that now. So all you have to do is click on, I want to apply for Everglades. Boom, you click on the Everglades, and it goes in there. You fill out everything, but your portfolio is already online, so you have your profile. You just link that to that application.
Nice.
And so now, Grand Canyon or whatever, all they have to do is, oh, this Randy Traynor applied, click, oh, that's his website, and they have everything.
Okay.
So it is kind of neat.
Cafe Manager?
Yeah, again, it's CAFE. I think it's manager. You might be right on that. I apologize to the listeners out there, but if you management or manager, like you're talking about, try one of the two, and you'll see, because they have a whole list of from big ones to small ones.
Okay, so now you said that sometimes they pay a food stipend or something like that. Is that all spelled out in the application project?
Yeah, that's part of the, this is
process.
What you get, this is what we're going to give you, in return while you're here. Sometimes, extra money here, but your food will be paid for, it will not be paid for. So all that is up front, because you don't just show up and, oh, I thought you were going to pay for my food, and next thing you know, you don't have the money. So,
what about, are there any grants that you can apply for to pay for, like, say, your airfare to get to Alaska?
I'm sure, I've been fortunate enough that I was able to afford, the things, and I do travel a lot. And of course, even like with Cypress, I was able just to drive. But that would be something too that you might be able to look into as a government grant, because that they give them for everything basically. I'm sure it'd be interesting to see if they actually have one.
So maybe just do an internet search?
That's what I would think. If someone wants to, who can't afford it or would love to have it, but it's a little bit out of their budget. One, you have to really decide, is that one the right one for you? Maybe I should do something closer. Or two, let's see if I can get a grant. And see what. There's some people that do GoFundMe's. And in fact, that's what I actually will say. I did a GoFundMe for some clothes, because I had the airline taken care of, and I had I do enough I have waterproof clothes. I knew I was going to be kayaking because I kayak in Florida here, but it's cold up there in Alaska.
Yeah.
And being in Florida,
You're a Florida boy.
Yeah. And you have one or two shirts, when it gets cold, and maybe, but so I had to look into, especially with the entire time we were there, we were going to be on ice water, 32 degrees. We were camping near glaciers, and ice little chunks were floating by. So that's, this was in June, but it's always cold under the water. So you obviously fall in, you get hypothermia. But at nighttime, the same thing. I needed new stuff, just for to sleep. They provided the tent and the sleeping bag, but just warm clothes in general, because in Alaska it rains sometimes and you get cold. So I did a GoFundMe, and I said, anything that helped me out, because I'm already having to pay for this and that to get out there.
Did you give them anything in return,
yeah,
like a Kickstarter?
Usually you say, hey, for this amount of money, you can. Well, I'll give you.
I didn't know GoFundMe did that. I know Kickstarter did that.
Yeah,
where
Kickstarter. You can GoFundMe. You could sit there and say, if you want to, this is for this amount of money. Like I had calendars every year. I said, I'll give you one of our calendars, and so basically it was exchanging for the same price. But it was something, instead of me, I ended up getting. I only needed like $800 because I was looking at stuff on the internet, and I said, this is what before I did it. I said, I can probably.
Only though, that's a lot of money.
It is a lot. And
for
if I had
just
to pay
clothes that you're never going to wear again.
Yeah. Yeah, this past year I was like, we had a little bit, 2 or 3 extra cold snaps, and I was like, Tallahassee, I got to wear my summer clothes. I made a joke about it because it was summertime in Alaska when I was up there, and I was joking with my wife. I said, I got to put on my summer clothes now because it's cold. But it's funny. But yeah, that's what I would recommend as well. Maybe see if they, I don't know what the official rules are with GoFundMe's, but hey, I need help for an airfare. I need to get to,
Well, I know, I don't know GoFundMe as well, but Kickstarter. Actually, I had a guy, it was Gareth Rockcliffe. I don't remember the show number. Maybe Heather can find it and put it in the show notes. But it was an early show, early on when we first started, almost 3 years ago. Gosh, I can't believe we've been doing it that long. But Gareth did a successful Kickstarter fund and funded an entire trip called the Great American Photo Adventure Coastal Project. Anyway, he went over to California. Basically, he and his wife, they got a Airstream, and the whole thing, and documented it. But for certain levels, so the whole show was about Kickstarter.
Okay.
So we have a whole Understand Photography show about that topic. So that's how I learned about it.
Well, and
I learned a lot at this show.
that was a nice thing for me, especially. Obviously, there was a lady coming in after me. She was a writer. She was coming in from Connecticut, so she came in the latter part of March. But she had to fly down, and I'm sure, I don't know if Corey picked her up. Didn't know that much because it wasn't mine. But how was she going? Is she going to rent a car the whole time she was down here? All that for her was different than me because I was able to drive my car. But in Alaska, I had to fly, and then figure out, okay, how am I going to get anywhere? Well, they picked me up from the airport, and they brought me to Whittier, basically, is where we went out on the boat to start going into Prince William Sound. So they took care of that for me, the transportation.
So did you need a car at all in either
Alaska?
Place? I mean, you needed a car here to get food.
Here because.
But did you? I mean, Big Cypress is a big place.
Yeah. That was a nice day. I would recommend, even if anyone's in this general area that thinks they could drive to Big Cypress. Yeah, drive. It's don't fly into Miami or whatever, because by the time you rent a car, you're going to spend less in gas anyway. But there's so many hidden roads, and there's so many deeper trails.
Now, if you're going to rent, though, should you rent it like a 4-wheel Jeep?
Yeah, oh yeah, I would, especially down here in Big Cypress.
Yeah.
You just never know.
Yeah, because there is only one place that I know of that will rent it in this area, and that's in Fort Myers. I think it's called Fox. Fox, is that a car rental place? I think it is.
Oh yeah, I'm not familiar
Fox,
with that.
but they'll rent a 4-wheel drive Jeep.
Yeah. You can get a Jeep, or even something that maybe all-wheel drive.
All-wheel drive, but you don't want anything too low to the ground. Like Joe has an all-wheel drive car, but it's low to the ground. You're not going to take that out in there. Right. You're going to get stuck.
Bumps and stuff, and of course this time of the year, like you were saying, it could be a dry road. A Traynor River Road, off 41 could be nice and dry, but a big rainstorm comes through and it gets a little mushy.
Turns into Traynor River.
And so you want to have that capability, but at the same time, if you that you could be in the Grand Canyon, you may not need a car, because then you might be staying in a lodge where you're going to be maybe hiking around, like you're at your location, and that's a little bit different than Big Cypress, because you want to go.
But that's another consideration when you're deciding where to go, and what kind of transportation you're going to need while you're there.
Yeah.
So some of them you have to think about your food and your internet and your, there's a lot of things to think about.
The Hawaii is a good example of that. That's what I said. We're definitely going to need a car because it's going to be just outside of the park is where their house is, and so if I wanted to go into the park to the Volcanoes National Park, I know that area because I've been to Hawaii, but it's not the closest. You're about 20 minutes, but it's not. You got to wind your way down into it, and to go explore that park is just as big as Big Cypress, but it's got volcanic rock instead of swamp. And so you need to have a good car to get around, and even just any kind of car to get around really in Hawaii. So that's something I have to look at and going, okay, well, if I get it, they're going to give me this siphon. I can use that. I can probably use points to get out there with the air aisle, so that will cover that cost. But what about food, and what about anything else that I need? So it's
lots of things
to consider about it. So it's a great thing to be an artist in residence. It's an honor, obviously, because there was like 2,500 people applying for the Alaska.
Wow.
They only picked 10 of us. So that's pretty good, odds. And I've seen some as high as 10 or 15,000, because everybody wants to go to the Smokies or whatever because it's the fall. So you're like, gosh, but then when you hear back from the people saying, we're really sorry you didn't get picked, you are, runner-up, which always, I'm like, don't send me that email because it's like, thank you for letting me, I'm the runner-up, the bridesmaid. But it's like,
but runner-up is better than
what is true?
You're number 2,500.
And you're like, well, in the event that the artist that got picked can't make it, then you're first in line. So then you're like, do I do a Nancy Kerrigan or something, and so she can't. No, but you wish everybody the best. But you finally, it does stink when you don't get picked. But at the same time, that also helps me back to the original question not too long ago. What can I do a little bit better next time to not be second? And that's what I did, and I got the Alaska one because I just tweaked it. And I tweaked a few things, and I think that was just enough to say, okay, this is
get
the guy,
their attention. Now, who are the jurors? But I mean, this is my last question, and I wanted some final tips because we're at time. Okay. So, who are the jurors? Do
Usually
we know?
It's the Rangers.
The Rangers themselves.
And same thing with the Alaska. They had because they kept doing all the emails to everybody. Once I became picked, I could see where everybody was picked, but they all had to pick. Because someone down in the south of Alaska might only want someone that's, they may not want photography at that point. They may have wanted somebody with, painting or something. So they were able to pick everybody. But then once they get to your finalists, there's a panel, and majority of the time it's people that are involved, at least in the Park Service, they're all rangers. You might have, like I said, something in New York City, it might be the museum, they may have the board of directors, or or some of the bigger wigs that make the decisions.
Okay.
We're going to pick this lady or guy to come be our artist in residence.
Okay, all right. So final tips. What are some tips, recommendations for people who want to do this?
Just be prepared for the time of your life, because both of them have been awesome. It's a great experience. That's the first thing. But the second, really most important is, like we talked earlier, just make sure you have the time to take off, because they're usually 3 weeks or 4 weeks. There are some residencies were longer, but on the average 3 to 4 weeks of your life is going to be gone. So you away from work, family, friends. You're there, and just be prepared to be rejected. And I say that nicely because I've been rejected many times. But once you get one, I think that's that. Oh well, it's sort of. I'm the same guy I was yesterday, but now you did the one artist, second artist. That's why I'm hoping some of these other ones I'm applying for don't, because now it's on the resume,
right.
And suddenly it's like any kind of thing. So, but rejection is hard for everybody, and you just have to be prepared mainly for that rejection, because not everybody gets it. Like I said, the Alaska I applied 7 times, and on the 6 times before I was rejected. Okay. 7th time I got picked. 7 years in a row I kept going, I really want this Alaska thing. And I finally got it.
That's awesome.
But I could have given up and said, I'm never going to get that Alaska, I'm never going to get it. So, but I didn't. We kept trying. And the same thing with Big Cypress. It was like, okay, let me apply and see if they'll pick me. Well, I was already an artist in residence at that point, so they were like, hey, he's got some clout.
Yes.
That helped out. So,
success breeds success.
Yeah, so I may
But getting that first success is a little hard. So what projects are coming up for you, or adventures? What do you got coming up?
In fact, next week, going into the Keys, I'm going to do some photography in the Keys. So that's local for Florida. We love going down to the Keys, and it's just so beautiful down there.
Great.
This fall, looking at Big Cypress, British Columbia, there's a bear rainforest up in the western part of British Columbia where there's actually albino bears up there too. It's really cool.
Wow.
But a lot of hiking and a lot of nature and a lot of waterfalls. It's it's all the Western Rockies, Canadian Rockies. And then I'm looking at for next year, unless I get some kind of residence, going to the photographer's dream of Iceland, where we're going to go around and take lots of pictures. But it all depends if I get picked for another artist in residency, because you got to push things back.
That's exciting.
But as a photographer, I'd like to go, do trips, obviously, to build my portfolio up, and and obviously to sell at art shows and things. But yeah, it's going to be a busy year.
So where can our audience find you?
Of course, www.randytraynor, that's Traynor, photography.
O-R. Oh, I would have spelled it with an E-R. Yeah. It's O-R.
Well, I've had some people spell it like the trainer, like a football trainer.
Oh, yeah,
But it's Traynor. You can just even type in
randytraynor.com.
Photography.
Oh, randytrainorphotography.com.
Yeah. And I'm also on Instagram and Facebook the same way. So if someone out there wants to follow me on those two, I'm always posting pictures and follow my adventures that way. If you just want to follow me on Instagram.
Awesome,
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for being on the show.
Thanks a lot. I hope I gave some people some good advice.
I feel like that was a really good show. I think I got a lot out of it anyway. So that's what counts.
Well, I wish everybody the best, because it is. It's one of those things. It is a competition, but you know what? It's a great experience, and I wish everybody could experience what I have so far, and hopefully a few more times.
All right, thank you. To the audience, hey, if you have any suggestions for guests or topics, like I just thought of the one during this show, hey, we should do a show on, I already forgot what it was, I hope Heather wrote it down, or anything to improve the show in general, just give me an email at peggy@understandphotography.com. Thanks so much for watching the Understand Photography Show. I'm Peggy Farren.
Get up!